On October 22, 2022, at the Target store in Blue Ash, Ohio, imagine yourself leisurely pushing your shopping cart, the subtle scent of winter wood candles in the air, unaware that you're about to become a part of an unscripted, director-free comedy show. You're deciding between traditional salted potato chips or daring to try the new spicy chili lime flavor when suddenly, your Target store transforms into a battleground for a dramatic argument. Yes, this is the moment when you'll never look at Target the same way again. At the checkout counter, a middle-aged woman named Karen Ivory stands with a bill over $1,000, enough to make you think she's buying the entire store, or at least a new couch set. But no, her request leaves the staff more confused as they try to figure out if there's any internal policy on reparations for customers. And no, it's not because of damaged products or technical issues. She wants Target to pay her the rest, for reparations. Yes, you heard that right. She wants Target to atone for the past. Sure, no one's ever been trained on how to handle requests like this in employee training sessions. Now, picture this. The staff just wants to check if a coupon is valid, and here she is, demanding historical reparations. Target suddenly becomes a political arena where it's impossible to tell where the checkout counter ends and the debate on social justice begins. Everyone around, from the other shoppers to the cashiers, becomes an unwilling audience to a drama they never bought tickets for. And then the big question arises. Can Target really handle reparations when they're still struggling to make sure you don't forget your 10% off coupon? The cashier probably wishes he were a barista at the coffee shop across the street, dealing with simpler questions like, what size latte would you like? Instead of facing a question like, what are reparations, and why do I have to handle this right now? Surely, he's thinking, I could be making a latte for someone right now, and this is the moment I get to really live my truth. But no, instead, he has to navigate a verbal sparring match over global issues. And then, like some cosmic joke, the store manager walks in, a man who has certainly had a day longer than a trip to the underworld, his eyes hollow and his spirit utterly drained. He isn't preparing to fix the price or find a lost membership card. Instead, he's about to endure the essential speech every tension-filled moment requires: privilege, social injustice, and, yep, you guessed it, Rosa Parks. Yes, exactly, this isn't about paying for goods, it's a discussion about national rights, and those historical stories you usually hear in human rights classes. Who needs to do their job when they can suddenly become the spokesperson for social revolutions? As the manager tries to explain that Target doesn't have a reparations and compensation department, Ivory, determined as ever, decides the only way to settle this is to get very close, ridiculously close. Close enough to make you hear the heartbeat, or maybe her heavy breathing from pushing that cart. As the manager starts to feel like he's in a horror movie scene, realizing the shadow is coming closer with terrifying speed, he starts retreating, sneaking into the office to avoid facing this situation. But, do you think Ivory will stop? No way. She charges into the office like a character in a video game, flinging the door open and facing the security guard as if this were the final battle. What, trying to run? You might hear her say in this tense moment. And here, everything reaches its climax. The security guard, cornered with no escape, really, he has only one option: fight back. So, with amazing confidence, he does what anyone in his position would do. He throws a heavyweight punch. Boom! A punch right in Ivory's face, and if you listen carefully, you can imagine the sound effects of an imaginary crowd cheering and clapping. And no, you're not mistaken, this isn't WWE, where punches and wrestling moves are scripted. No, folks, this is just another ordinary Saturday afternoon at Target, where you can find everything from discounts to an unscripted showdown. And then, to make the situation even more dramatic, Ivory, with an unbelievable level of seriousness, declares this to be my Rosa Parks moment. Yes, you heard that right. She's comparing herself to the legendary woman who fought for civil rights, all because she couldn't finish her shopping transaction without a little revolution. Perhaps, in her mind, demanding reparations was a stand against globalism and racism. It must have felt like when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus, if you add a pinch of boxing and some hesitant steps between food aisles, of course. This whole situation is truly a lesson in how you can't storm everything, even when you're just trying to pay for a few items at Target. When the police arrive, Ivory doesn't just show no regret. She confidently declares that this was her Rosa Parks moment. Yes, because who wouldn't compare chasing down a store employee and shoving them into an office to a historic turning point in civil rights? You know, Rosa Parks stood up against injustice and racism. But before she was arrested, she probably also demanded compensation from some retail store, right? The police, with their remaining patience after witnessing Ivory's revolution, gently explained that no, chasing and cornering employees isn't exactly the peaceful dialogue she envisioned. In fact, if Rosa Parks were alive to witness this, she might wonder if she had been a little off in how she presented her movement. As expected, Ivory was arrested for disorderly conduct and threats, and instead of becoming the hero of a fight against injustice story, she became the star of a comedy with a rather ironic ending. Meanwhile, the Target security guard, just trying to protect his personal space, unexpectedly became the hero in an afternoon full of tension. Who would have thought that a punch to the face could turn him into the righteous protector of the store? Later, Ivory was sentenced to a day in jail and fined $110, a fee she surely wished Target could cover, if only they could resolve everything with something other than punches. So, what's the takeaway here? Well, never, ever underestimate the potential drama that can unfold at Target. I'm serious, you could be choosing between Doritos and Lay's chips, and in an instant, you're an unwilling audience to a performance Hollywood would envy. 1 minute, you're chatting with a cashier about coupons, and the next minute, you're witnessing a historical flavor of confrontation, with Rosa Parks 2022 making a dramatic appearance in an argument like no other. But wait, the ending might make you laugh. Instead of a revolution for civil rights, she gets a knockout punch from the security guard. Yes, that's right, a punch. If this were a movie, there'd definitely be slow motion and suspenseful music. Who knew a shopping trip to Target could lead to such a historic showdown? The focal point of the chaos that day was Karen Ivory, a character impossible to ignore with her firm belief in her own truth. The story began when she tried to pay a bill of over $1,000 at the checkout, but, oh dear, unfortunately, Karen's wallet didn't have the power to handle this amount. However, instead of doing what any normal person would do in this situation, like searching through her bank account or simply removing a few unnecessary items, Karen, with her creative flair, decided that this was the perfect moment to request a special gift, reparations. And not just any reparations, but reparations from the whole country. That's right, she decided that Target, a retail store selling household goods and food, was an underground branch of the U.S. government, capable of paying for the debts of previous generations. Quite the brilliant idea, don't you think? Who needs banks or financial institutions when you have Target to handle all your financial issues? Just imagine, if Karen could convince them to provide reparations, wouldn't we all have a chance to shop for free at those stores? Oh, absolutely, why not? I mean, why stop at paying for your groceries when you can revolutionize the entire financial system while you're at it? In Karen's mind, Target isn't just a retail store anymore. It's basically the United Nations of consumerism, tasked with solving global economic inequality. Can't pay your bill? No problem. Just ask for reparations right there at the checkout counter. I mean, who wouldn't expect to have a deep, world-changing conversation about systemic financial reform while standing next to the soda aisle and waiting for the cashier to finish scanning your granola bars? After all, if you can't settle your own tab, you might as well tackle the entire concept of money and fairness, right? It's all about multitasking. Buy one, get one free on social justice. It feels like Target just became the perfect venue for a global summit on all societal issues, and surprise, Karen has been tasked with solving all of them. After all, who wouldn't want to hear her share her financial reform plan right at the checkout counter? Surely everyone around her would stop, take a deep breath, and listen intently to the groundbreaking financial theories that only Karen could bring, right? Who needs a meeting at the United Nations when you could have a nationwide discussion right between the aisles of Target? Maybe her reform plan wouldn't just involve asking for a discount on a few items, but would expand into the issue of reparations, making Target the frontrunner in financial redistribution for those struggling to pay their bills. Who knows? Imagine this. You're a Target employee, surviving each day with the hope that your shift will end on time, earning minimum wage that no one can truly live on. You're scanning the shelves, trying not to be drained by endless questions like, does this item come in another color? Or is this on sale? When suddenly, boom, a woman appears before you, her gaze determined, and she says, I want historical reparations. That's right, you heard it correctly. She wants you, a hard-working, and maybe a bit exhausted, cashier, to compensate for historical losses as if you were the CFO of Target, or at least managing the National Insurance Fund. Not a small request, right? Can you imagine that? In the middle of trying to scan the barcode of an item that the customer just decided to change the price of, she's asking for historical reparations. And you, who are calculating every penny to afford lunch, are supposed to deal with this? It feels like you've just come from a Target store, where you know you'll never become a millionaire, and suddenly you're being asked to solve all the economic and social issues of the past century just because a few items are in a customer's cart. She's not just shopping, she's asking you to fix history. Maybe after this shift, you'll be promoted to CEO of Target, who knows? Have you ever stood in a store and wondered, today is the day I'll change the whole world, right? Can you imagine standing at the checkout, looking determined, and saying to the customer, let me call the senior management team, they'll fix all societal injustices for you right now, in just a few minutes. But wait, really? Because instead of being the hero who saves the entire global financial system, you can only smile politely, trying not to lose all your patience as your customer believes you can turn a cash register into a magical machine that controls the economy with just a few button presses. And here's the moment when you realize, what you thought was a serious conversation about grand societal issues is turning into a play that neither you nor the customer knows how to act in. You stand there, looking at the person in front of you with a, who am I in this world? Expression, while the other person looks at you as if you can solve all of humanity's problems by giving a discount on one item. And then, in that awkward silence, you realize that instead of standing on a grand podium, you're just trying to stay calm and smile like a cashier in the midst of a global financial revolution. No friendly handshake here. Surely, you've been swept into a play where neither of you knows what role you're playing. At first, at the checkout, everything begins like an entirely normal shopping day at Target, where you can find everything from unnecessary items, like a new pillow for your dog, to absolute essentials you can't live without, such as frozen pizza and a new mattress. But, oh no, today is a different story. While others are fighting over discounted items, Karen Ivory, our special customer, suddenly faces a very awkward situation. Her bill exceeds $1,000, and it seems her wallet is unable to handle this financial problem. Instead of accepting defeat and retreating, or at least trying to find a small, inexpensive item to salvage the situation, Karen had a brilliant idea. She decided that the missing money wasn't the problem. The problem was that Target wasn't doing anything to reimburse history for her. So, instead of secretly trying to salvage the missing amount by slipping an item with a discount into her cart, Karen thought, why not ask Target to compensate for all the social injustices? And with full confidence, she stood there, boldly demanding historical reparations, because, according to her unique theory, Target, a billion-dollar corporation trying to profit off of us, could right all the wrongs of history with a free swipe of the card at the checkout. Who needs complex policies or social revolutions when you can ask for a historical gift from Target, right? Just one swipe of the card and all the pain of humanity is erased. Who says shopping can't save the world? The store manager appears, trying to stay calm, like a soldier battling the urge to flee from such an awkward situation. Surely, she was prepared for a stressful workday, but she couldn't have imagined that Karen, the symbol of resistance and the desire to fight against all injustices, wouldn't be easily denied. So, with iron determination, Karen not only wanted to settle a bill, but she also wanted to change the world. She immediately demanded to speak with someone of higher authority, not the store manager, not the regional director, but someone who could truly change the fate of this world. Maybe the CEO of Target, or why not, even the President of the United States. After all, if they had enough power, everything would be easier, right? And then, this isn't just about a $1,000 bill. Oh no, Karen isn't someone who cares about trivial matters like that. She's on a mission greater than any discount program Target could offer. A mission that, clearly, only she could complete. And it doesn't stop at asking for compensation for the bill. No, Karen is standing there, in this very Target store, fighting not just for her own rights, but for all those who have been forgotten, those who've never had the chance to negotiate reparations right at the checkout counter, those suffering from the injustice of the global trade system. Karen knows that if this isn't changed, no one will make Target realize that we all deserve discounts when struggling to pay our bills. And while everyone around her looks on in amazement and confusion, Karen is seeing the future, where all bills will be erased and everyone will be compensated on the spot. Not just one person, but all of us. Just think, if Karen can change such a mundane system like Target, who's to say she can't change the world? And then, just like in every famous action movie, the situation began to escalate in a tense and dramatic way that no one could have predicted. Karen, our hero, albeit a bit quirky, decided that the basic social rules we often talk about, like respecting personal space or standing at least 1 meter away from others, things we usually think of as common sense in life, actually meant nothing to her. She must have thought, why worry about those things when I can become the center of attention in every conversation by invading other space without any hesitation? So, Karen started implementing a completely new strategy, the get up close to people to build relationships strategy. Yes, she charged in with such speed that you'd immediately think of a scene from a Hollywood action movie where the hero is never late. But instead of jumping over a car speeding toward her, Karen did something simpler, yet just as impactful. She leaned her face right into the manager's face as if she were searching for the answer to the grand cosmic question, why are there problems that can't be solved with a credit card? The manager, who was in no way equipped with the superpowers needed to dodge an action movie-style collision, had to retreat like a chess player being checkmated. You can imagine him mumbling to himself, wait, is this a chess game or a life-or-death battle? How did I end up here, and how can I get out of this without being recorded in a disaster action movie? Truly, this was a moment where even he didn't know what he was doing, just backing up, hoping he wouldn't be hit again with another cosmic question. Oh, but don't think it ended here, my friends. Ivory, like an unwavering warrior, decided not to give up and continued her resilient journey. And when the security officer entered, he wasn't the hero in a firefighter's suit, but a person entrusted with the task of saving the Target store from a situation that was just too much. But what's interesting is that Ivory didn't just ask for her issue to be resolved. No, she decided to elevate the conversation to a whole new level, turning the security officer's office into an impromptu meeting room. As if she were the CEO of a big company, attending an important meeting no one could refuse. And you know what? When you corner someone, not just literally but figuratively, the outcome is not always what you expect. From a money dispute, we suddenly found ourselves in a tense conference where everyone participated without preparation. But while everyone was trying to mediate, she continued to play the host, making the situation unpredictable. Who would have thought that from a simple request for an item, we'd witness such an unexpected performance like this? So the security guy, cornered with no escape, decided to show off his self-defense skills and style, a punch straight to Ivory's face, as if he had just discovered he was a superhero in a Hollywood action movie. It was such an artful punch that if there were an award for self-defense in a supermarket, this guy would definitely take home the gold medal. And of course, that punch would be remembered by both of them, the security guard and Ivory, for the rest of their lives. But don't forget, there was another unwitting witness to everything, the Target security camera system. This friend was always ready to record everything, from dramatic action moments to unbelievable events, and of course, all captured perfectly, with no detail missed. It was truly a real-life action movie. And if we could add a tense soundtrack like in those action scenes, This moment would surely feel like a sequence of powerful punches in a Fast and Furious film. Throughout the conversation with the police, Karen kept insisting that she wasn't just a regular customer trying to pay a bill of over $1,000, but that, in reality, she was a warrior for justice, a hero fighting to defeat a broken financial system that only she could clearly see the injustice in. And, needless to say, she didn't forget to call this moment her Rosa Parks moment. Indeed, after facing a cruel cash register and a pile of ruthless bills, Karen decided to stand up and fight for a cause much larger than paying for a few items. She wasn't worried about the money she owed. She was fighting to break the cycle of a society where, according to her, everyone is suffocated by financial burdens. Why should only the lucky ones get discounts, right? Who needs money when you can be seen as a warrior fighting for social justice, right? So, Karen, with a vision so sharp that it could make even financial experts take a step back, decided that Target, a retail empire with thousands of stores across America, would be the perfect place to start her revolution. She thought that Target would look at her and say, "Oh, right, Karen. You're asking us to join in a global financial reform? Why not? Let's help you fix the economy. Everything's fine, as long as you take free stuff. Who needs to pay when we can change the world in one transaction?" But, unfortunately, Target's response wasn't an invitation to join the revolution, but a look as if Karen had just proposed stealing all the merchandise from the store and calling it socialism. "No, Karen, you can't take a bunch of stuff home just because you think you're on a noble mission. Like, oh, don't mind the bill, I'm doing Rosa Parks' job here." And this is the big problem Target couldn't understand. Perhaps someone in Target's checkout department missed the part about social repair in their manual? Maybe they forgot that payment means paying, not solving global problems while pushing a shopping cart. So, while Karen continued her revolution, Target, like every other big retailer, remained steadfast in the principle that your items cannot be reformed for free. Apparently, they weren't ready to change the national financial system, at least not with a cart full of Karen's items. Ah, and don't forget the security officer, who also had his own interesting story. He recounted that when you're cornered in a cramped office with no escape, and your personal space is seriously invaded, it feels like you're starring in a horror movie, but not the creepy kind like The Shining, more like The Shining, but less spooky and a lot scarier because you might get punched in the face. And of course, in this situation, his self-defense reaction was completely reasonable. No one wants to become a scene in a movie, right? Surely none of us want to become the punchable side character in a never-ending script. He didn't think he was participating in any great historic struggle, he just wanted to preserve his precious face. "I'm not a statue for anyone to come and punch." That was his firm statement. He also wanted everyone to understand that he was defending his face, not participating in a human rights revolution or something. He even emphasized that his goal in this situation was simply to leave without losing his precious nose. "Anyone could face this situation, but I just want to get out of here without a bruise on my face. Thanks a lot." He certainly thought he was in an action movie, the kind with dangerous chases, where every punch is a perilous move that could lead to certain death. He was like, every step forward, every sharp look, could be the last time I see the light of this world. But anyway, he just wanted one thing, not to be punched, not to be hurt. And if possible, he wanted to finish his workday without any marks from the battle. His nose and face, that was all he needed to continue his peaceful life. In fact, who doesn't understand the feeling when you're pushed into a cramped space where the only sound left is the other person's breath, accompanied by a dangerous look, like you're standing in a horror movie? But don't worry, if it's not a scene from The Conjuring, you can at least imagine you're in a comedy action film, where the protagonist always finds a way to escape at the last moment, and the audience laughs at how ridiculous it all is. And hey, who doesn't want to save a bit of dignity and protect themselves from becoming a villain in their own life story? Imagine that scene. You're standing in front of someone invading your personal space, calmly figuring out how to deal with it, and then suddenly you become the hero, not because of any special skills or superhuman fighting ability, but simply because you really don't want to be the villain in your own story. Who wouldn't like a bit of self-preservation before getting into a ridiculous situation, right? Finally, after a tense investigation, the police concluded that while Karen may have imagined herself as a hero in a superhero movie, with a noble mission like saving the world from social injustice or even fighting for the rights of the underprivileged, the truth was that her sudden invasion of a store employee's personal space and causing public chaos probably wasn't the rescue plan she had in mind. If Karen thought she was standing up like Rosa Parks in this era, maybe she should review the manual on how to be an exemplary figure in a social justice movement. Especially when one doesn't go punching people just because they don't want to hear about compensation at the checkout counter. After all, is fighting for justice just about chasing a store employee into a small room and leaving the whole store stunned? Don't forget that a revolution might start at the checkout counter, but it surely doesn't begin with a punch from above. Oh, Karen, Karen, Karen. A name forever tied to bizarre retail adventures. Unbelievable, but this time, she didn't just get the lesson, don't mess with retail workers, but also an unexpected gift from the law, a day in jail and a $110 fine. And you know, certainly no one would think about asking for compensation for a fine like that, even though it was related to money, the very thing Karen had been trying to get through the whole ordeal. Who doesn't want a comfortable shopping trip, right? But this time, Karen wasn't the lucky customer getting a discount voucher, but a fine voucher. Perhaps after this, Karen will realize something important. Not every battle is worthy of the slogan, the right to reclaim justice. And certainly not when you're in the middle of the Target aisle, surrounded by discounted goods and people fighting over winter faux fur blankets. Big social proclamations shouldn't be made while you're in line at the checkout, especially when you're trying to convince someone that the monetary system is a form of racism. The most important lesson from this incident? Don't let your shopping cart get too heavy with too big ideas about justice. So the security guard is absolved of responsibility for an act of self-defense, a concept that seems quite loose in the eyes of the American legal system. It's as if self-defense can be applied to any situation where you feel uncomfortable, from being bothered by someone to suddenly being charged in the face for reasons that no one quite understands. According to the law, it seems like you're not supposed to be a saint and endure sudden blows without being allowed to react. You absolutely have the right to protect your face from unwanted attacks, whether it's a customer wanting to negotiate reparations or simply someone forgetting the 1 meter safe distance between people. Honestly, I don't think any of us would just stand there and accept such a shove without doing anything, unless you've been a statue for the past 100 years. Speaking of statues, I'm pretty sure even statues couldn't endure it. Whether made of plaster or bronze, if you charge into them, you'll eventually experience their self-defense, maybe a broken head or something similar when pushed too hard. So, when it comes to self-defense, it seems American law not only lets you defend yourself from blows, but also protects you from being a statue for the rest of your life. The story between Karen and the Target employee, a bold battle for civil rights and the nose that cannot be infringed, much like an episode of Heroes in the Retail World. It seemed like we were witnessing a march for justice, where brave souls fight for their own rights. But no, instead of marching, Karen was in a bargaining session with a sales associate, asking him to perform a task that might not be in his job description. Help me resolve my personal budget. Karen, like a warrior in the armor of indignation, confidently declared, I just want to exercise my civil rights. The world suddenly became grand, like a massive protest where she stood in the middle of the square, courageously demanding reparations from Target, while the sales associate was unprepared for a debate on social justice. It wasn't a discussion on financial distribution or social equality, but a simple request to lower the bill. Something no one had ever said was the duty of the cashier. As for the Target employee, he stood firm not only in his duties but also for the safety of his nose. I just want to keep my nose, he asserted with determination, as if guarding a priceless heritage. He knew the value of that nose, and in a tense battle between personal safety and a customer determined to make everything a little special, that nose was the symbol of survival. Without that nose, not only would his career be in jeopardy, but he would also lose the ability to smell the delightful pizza during break time, something that could seriously diminish his motivation. So, while Karen was exercising her civil rights, the Target employee just wanted to keep his nose intact. And thus, a sweet struggle, or more accurately, a slightly suffocating struggle, broke out, not for grand ideals but for a very small but incredibly important part of every face, the nose. Yes, indeed, when it comes to the law, we are all protected, even from a face charge by a customer who doesn't understand basic manners. This story is not just a reminder of overspending at Target, because who can resist those endless promotions and impulse buys, right? But also a valuable lesson about how to change the world, and according to Karen Ivory, her social reform goal started by asking for $1,000 in reparations at the checkout. You're not misreading it. She didn't go to the UN or international organizations to file a request, but instead chose a Target store. Who knows? Maybe that's where social reform strategies begin. So the question arises, if you want to change the world, could Target be the place to launch a grand revolution? While you might not find global leaders there, you'll certainly find clearance racks that make you feel like you're changing the world by discounting everything in your cart. Furthermore, when you're standing in front of a huge pile of stuff and trying to enforce justice through checkout lines, is it true that social revolutions should be carried out at cash registers? Because nothing screams fighting injustice more than asking Target to do reparations for you while your bill could reach $1,000. She might have wanted to mark global change by buying a hairdryer and a gardening kit, but as they say, revolutions are never easy, especially when you haven't paid for everything in your cart. And if you truly want to talk big, perhaps you should remember a basic piece of advice from the pandemic era. Maintain a 6-foot distance, not just to protect health, but also to protect the spirit of those employees facing a pile of customers talking big. Because, as we've seen, when you get too close, not only can you make others uncomfortable, but you could also get punched in the face for self-defense. So before you start your revolution, make sure you've paid your bill and avoid making anyone feel cornered, both literally and figuratively. Ah, Karen, the woman who turned a simple shopping trip into what can only be described as an epic saga of miscommunication and poor life choices. Let's break it down, shall we? From a $1,000 bill to a single day in jail, Karen's journey provides us with some very important life lessons. Buckle up, folks. Here's what we can learn from her story. When you're looking to make demands, choose your setting wisely. First rule of thumb: not every negotiation needs to happen in the cramped aisles of a Target. Sure, it's tempting to confront the manager while they're in the middle of scanning $10 candles and dealing with unruly customers, but maybe consider a more comfortable setting next time. Picture this: you, lounging on a plush sofa, sipping chamomile tea, and discussing the intricacies of social justice and reparations with a very calm and collected person, preferably not the frazzled cashier who's counting down the minutes to their break. Trust me, it's the way to go. Personal space is a thing. Now, let's talk about space. We all love our personal bubbles, especially when we're just trying to get through the day without a surprise attack. When the manager took a step back and put their hands up, that was a polite, "I'm not interested" gesture. But Karen, being a woman on a mission, chose to ignore this social cue. And folks, here's the kicker. Invading personal space does not result in more empathetic conversations. It results in a punch to the face. Yes, you heard me right. No, not the kind of punch that comes with a bouquet of flowers or a "just kidding" wink. No, this was the real deal. A fist connecting with Karen's face as she relentlessly pursued the manager into a tiny office like she was the protagonist in a thriller movie. So, remember this. Keep your distance, unless you've mastered the art of peaceful negotiation with your fists. Not every Rosa Parks moment is, well, a moment of historical significance. Here's where Karen takes a turn for the dramatic. Claiming that this was her Rosa Parks moment was, let's say, ambitious. It's true that sometimes, in our quest for justice, we do need to stand up for ourselves. But maybe, just maybe, holding up a Target checkout line because you can't pay your bill doesn't quite carry the same weight as Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on a bus. But hey, why not turn a shopping malfunction into a social movement, right? Let's not forget that sometimes, the only thing you need to change the world is a valid credit card and a little patience. So, there you have it, folks. Karen's story is a lesson not just in social justice, but in how to not go about it. It's about knowing when to walk away from a confrontation, respecting other people's boundaries and personal space, and remembering that a punch in the face is rarely the answer, unless you're literally cornered and have no other options. But really, let's avoid that scenario, okay? At the end of the day, sometimes life's most profound moments don't happen in retail stores. They happen when you simply remember to pay your bill on time and respect the boundaries of everyone around you. Keep that in mind next time you're at the checkout line. The story started like a normal day at Target. You know, the place where shopping carts are filled with things you don't need, but always feel like it's just missing something. What's enough? A customer named Karen Ivory stood at the checkout, preparing to pay for the pile of goods she'd picked out. But wait, there's a little problem. She didn't have enough money. Yes, very normal, right? Anyone could find themselves in this situation, right? Just stop, put back the expensive item, and leave with a little embarrassment, not something serious. But, don't get it wrong, Karen is not your average shopper. No way. Karen is a warrior. Instead of choosing a simple option like most shoppers, sighing and leaving the item behind quietly, feeling a little embarrassed, Karen decided to turn the checkout line into a social forum, where she could demand something quite bold from Target: reparations for historical injustice. Yes, you're not reading it wrong. She actually asked Target to cover the rest of the bill, perhaps to remedy the historical harm she felt she had borne throughout her life. A request that is very humanitarian, and also very odd. Who would have thought that, while everyone just wanted to pay and go home, Karen would want to spark a small revolution at the checkout? Oh, it seemed like a simple story about a regular shopping day. But no, Karen didn't think so. She decided to turn paying for a pile of miscellaneous items into a campaign for justice. And no, this wasn't a campaign for the poor or urgent social issues. Karen's goal was clear. She wanted Target to compensate for the missing amount she couldn't pay. Yes, that's right, you didn't mishear it. This multimillion-dollar company, with huge profits, was supposed to take responsibility for her inability to pay. This was not a simple personal financial issue, but a deep dialogue about social injustice, about what big companies can do to ease America's historical wounds. And then, in that moment, Karen, our hero, not only wanted to pay for the items, but also wanted to drag Target into a great discussion about fairness and the role of corporations in rebuilding the nation. Of course, no one at Target was prepared for this historical moment. They thought they were just selling a few items, but no, this was a revolutionary meeting that would surely go down in history as a Rosa Parks moment. Just without a bus or a seat, but instead with Target's checkout line. Who could have known that, amidst discounted shelves and overflowing shopping carts, a revolution was blooming? Ah, and then, when she was denied, because, you know, this is Target, not the United Nations or some high-level Security Council meeting, Karen immediately turned this encounter into a historical speech that she called her Rosa Parks moment. Let's not get confused here. Rosa Parks, the courageous woman who stood up against racial segregation on the bus in Montgomery, while Karen was fighting the Target system just to ask for a meeting with a manager over her bill. I want to reiterate, Target, where you can buy everything from household goods to clothes, but don't expect to find reparations for your bill. There's no kind of compensation here, folks. This is truly one of the great battles of history. The Target parking lot versus social injustice. What do you think about that? Surely, if Karen could solve all societal issues just with a credit card and a row of discounted Target shelves, the world would have made incredible progress by now, right? Just imagine, with a few discounted hoodies, Karen could have changed an entire generation. And then, when she didn't get the result she wanted, although surely none of us think that a bill of over $1,000 can be paid just by saying, "Oh, just a little more, please," she decided to take the step that anyone in a tough situation would think of, charging straight into the employee's office and cornering them against the wall. You know, no one likes being cornered, unless they're a trained martial artist in dealing with difficult customers. Who knows? maybe this employee was hiding their skills. And then, what miracle happened next? Of course, a punch in the face. Why bother explaining when you can solve everything with a gentle punch? It's like, why talk when you can express your views this way? A perfect combination of frustration and self-defense skills, both polite and creative, all in one punch. And who could forget such an unexpected gift? An unforgettable event, right? It feels like a crash course in handling crises with a touch of humor, making you smile even though no one wins in this game. Effective communication. If you're planning to ask Target to sponsor your noble social mission, it's best to start by calling their PR department instead of standing at the checkout counter, turning the cashier into a United Nations representative. The cashier is not authorized to decide on reparations or solve global issues. They're just trained to scan barcodes and say, "Thank you, have a nice day." And if you think they'll turn into international negotiators, you'll be sorely disappointed. Unless, of course, you're including the request for a free item you didn't pay for in that peace agreement. So, if you really want to change the world, maybe you should try another approach other than asking for compensation right at the checkout. Maybe a phone call, an email, or even a face-to-face meeting with a person who actually has the authority. Let the cashier do their job in peace. Self-restraint and cooperation, two words that sound easy but are difficult to put into practice, especially when you're in a tense situation and you decide that dialogue in a confined space is the only way to resolve the issue. But don't rush to push someone into the office corner and tell them to have a conversation. That's not a step toward peace. In fact, it could lead to a surprise punch right in your face. And then, you'll have to explain to the police why you thought that action was a Rosa Parks moment. No, that moment won't make you a symbol of civil rights. It could just end with you being handcuffed for disrupting public order. Remember, sometimes self-restraint and cooperation might be the better choice than thinking you're leading a revolution, especially when you're not prepared for a conversation with the police afterward.